Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here. And so while I'm watching Reverend Al Sharpton this morning talking with Joe Scarborough and the crew about crime in Chicago and Trump and the chipocalypse now and so on and so forth, I expected much of what I got from Joe Scarborough. Reverend Al Sharpton said kind of surprised me, though. Unfortunately, I've yet to be able to find a video of this. It hasn't been posted on MSNBC's website or other posts. So if I do find it, I'll update this and put it in the link below so you can check. But he was basically, he said the whole thing about, why, what Trump's policies are really about and everything. But then he said, when you look at the violence, the 54 shot last weekend, the people, I think like 18 or something shot this weekend. He was saying, stop giving Trump a reason to do what he's doing. Stop giving a reason for him to be able to call in, to say he's going to call in the National Guard and do all of this other type of stuff. And, talking about, you're hurting your own community's cause. You're hurting the activists who are trying to fight for peace by giving Trump a reason to do what he's doing. And this politics of respectability is a real problem. And this is the type of language that's priming up people to have this country experience another crime bill. Now, to be clear, somebody like myself, my family, and the work we do, and fighting violence in the community, we constantly have said, you're doing the work of the enemy. You're doing the work of racists who hate you. You're doing the work of white supremacists who want to see more black people killed. There's no question about that being an issue and that being a problem. But to say that any issue relating to crime, any issue relating to violence, any issues relating to murder is cause for, it gives justification for President Trump to commit unconstitutional acts is simply ridiculous. And we're not going for it. We're not having that. If that's the case, people might as well say, well, these groups are running rampant. We might as well enslave them again. We might as well put them back in chains. We might as well have them work on plantations because at least it'll be orderly. Like, is that what we want to do? And to say that Democrats are just not good on crime, it's just ridiculous. Where we look at how many killings have taken place in Louisiana and Shreveport and all these other places over the weekend. That's not getting any coverage. Crime is a problem in America. Crime is a problem in inner cities. Crime is a problem in rural areas. Crime is a problem in many different spaces and places. But to say that, black people who are committing crime, need to stop because they're giving Trump a reason and justifying this and that. Nah, we can't sit here and say it's acceptable to act outside of the Constitution. It's acceptable to declare war on an American city because of the violence. That's not cool. And I don't care if it's Reverend Sharpton or anybody who says that. We can't accept that. The issue and the pressure needs to be on the illegal activities of President Trump. And people are saying, Joe and Reverend Al are saying, basically these Democrats need to keep kissing Donald Trump's behind and saying we want to work with you. And Joe had all of this praise for Muriel Bowser, who's given cops a raise and gave out her praise and respect for the cops. Democratic mayors give out respect and praise for police all of the time. This idea that every mayor of a blue city or every blue mayor, every Democratic mayor is some type of defund the police mayor, is some type of anti-police mayor. It's just not true, and it doesn't bear out. Now, of course, there's going to be issues that may come up with some of these unarmed police shootings and so on and so forth. And many of these, Democratic mayors are more to be inclined to move more towards community policing. This idea that Trump is winning the narrative wars because he's focusing on crime and it's a gift to the Republicans. He's winning the narrative wars because this is what you all are focusing on. You all are paying more attention to whatever Trump says. So you put up the, that chipocalypse now and all of that other type of stuff. And y'all devote all the entire segments. Nobody's saying that you have to devote the entire segments to it. You could be talking about Epstein. You could be talking about his failing economy. You could be talking about the ICE raids that are racist and disrespectful and illegal as well. You could be talking about his failures as it relates to he'll never challenge Putin. You could be talking about that, but to say that Republicans are running the narratives right now because they switched the discussions over to crime, nah, y'all did that. You all are doing that in the media. And there's a stark difference between what's happening in non-mainstream media sources like Black Star Network, like some of these, breaking points and some of these other places that are actually putting issues on the table relating to so many other issues. But this narrative that, Trump is winning right now because he has switched the narrative to crime, your networks are the ones who have done that. And on top of that, you're putting out a message as it relates to crime that's not accurate. You're painting Democratic mayors as all being anti-cop. And you're saying that all of these Democratic mayors, if they would just cave into Trump and just say, we're going to work with you, even though he has no desire to work with them in any way, shape, or form. Any president who wants to work with somebody in a city in the United States is not going to put up a social media post like that. Is not going to say, I love the smell of deportations in the morning. What the hell? I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Kristi Noem saying she gets off on watching these deportation videos, and these are the guys who the mayor wants to work with. And for Reverend Al Sharpton and others, and Reverend Sharpton has said this on Morning Joe before. What about the programs that are being cut? The billions of dollars that are being cut from communities that helped reduce crime. And Chris Matthews is on the show talking about, oh, y'all were talking about we need to have programs and stuff, but murders are up. Murders are down in all of these cities that are being targeted. That's an actual fact. They're down in DC. They're down in Baltimore. So why would you sit there and be on the show and say that murders are up? Yes, crime is bad. Crime is a problem. But you can't not acknowledge the efforts that are being made to make these changes. And you can't just say if people just suck up to the police, everything will be fine. It's a holistic approach. And that's what Mayor Johnson is talking about in Chicago. That's what Mayor Scott's talking about. That's what Mayor Lee's talking about. This is what needs to be done. There needs to be accountability. But this idea, I've talked about the crime bill from 94 a lot, and nobody in these mainstream outlets is talking about it. And nobody in some of these other outlets I'm looking at is talking about it. But the country's being primed for this draconian crime bill once again. And this is a problem. And Democratic mayors, this idea that they're, not good on crime when the top states in the country for crime, the top 10 states are red states. So when are folks in the media going to get honest about this, as opposed to giving Trump the narrative he wants? Maybe it's because that's the narrative these folks in the media want. And that's something that we have to be honest about as well. We can talk all day about what's happening on the streets of Chicago and other places. The economy is still plummeting, which is going to actually lead to more crime. We can talk about this, violence on the streets of Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles and all of these other places that, Kristi Noem said will be burning without their intervention, but vaccines are still disappearing. And people don't know when the next pandemic or epidemic of some sort might come with everything RFK Jr. is doing. They can talk about all of these different things, but the people are still paying more for supplies, for food, for groceries, and all of that. And if the news media stops talking about that because Trump is giving that narrative of Chicago, then shame on y'all. What do you all think? Let me know your thoughts. Please hit like, subscribe, share it if you feel like this resonates. Help us get to 25,000 subscribers. Sign up so you never miss the Upstanders podcast. Again, if I find a video of this conversation, I will post it. If you find it, share it as well so I can get it in the bio as well so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This is a narrative that we cannot accept in any way, shape, or form. If black people would just act right, this wouldn't be happening. First of all, it still would be happening because this is what Trump thrives on. And I do appreciate Chris Matthews, talking about the fact that Trump always runs on racism. And it continues to work. But don't let him get away with everything else that he's doing and tank this economy, jobs reports, and all of that other type, Epstein, and all of the other type of stuff to create a narrative about Democratic cities and Democratic mayors that isn't true. And of course, a narrative about black people that isn't true as well. Peace.